I'm Daemonxel, and it's time for your Eve Echoes Weekly News Update, where we dive into all the happenings of the week. But first, if you can tag that subscribe button and ring that bell, you too can stay up to date with everything that this channel has to offer. I only have one thing in the editor's notes this week. Have you thanked your writing group? Funny story. Earlier this week, between work and the new baby, I was ratting and talking with my Corp and Alliance friends, and apparently they audibly heard me fall asleep. And I do apologize to them for any loud snoring that may have occurred. But they did manage to warp me to a safe spot as the system flooded with reds. So be sure to thank your writing group as they watch your back even when you fall asleep. Thank you, Lex, and everyone else that was ratting with me that night. I know I woke up about 10 minutes after you got me to the safe spot, but again, thank you. I also want to give a little shout out. I did some roaming last week, and this meme was just, it made my day, and it's fantastic. I just love it. So congratulations for making this and making my day. For the Solve updates, unfortunately it looks like Exekiel has stopped updating the Solve maps, so I do not have an update this week on the Solve lost or gained. I just didn't have the time to chart the map every day. But if someone would like to pick up where he left off, hit me up on Discord. I am also still looking for any freelance reporters who would like to contribute to the news broadcast each week. Okay, the patch notes this week were a little on the light side. We had a few optimizations, the first one being they updated the estimated prices according to the current market transaction records, and as I said last week, I believe this is going to be a weekly thing, and it's good. They need to do this every week so that we have up-to-date estimations for things that go boom in the sky. Number 2, you can now delete a bulk sell order in the market by swiping left. Corporation contracts now display the name of a player who performed the action to create the contract. And number 4, you will now receive a notification whenever you cancel a sell order on the market. Nothing like having those notifications stack up. I think I have about 150 of them between everything that goes on in the game. And of course, whenever they fix something, they also break something, but they fixed 3 things this week. The first was they fixed an issue where the number of assembled items will be shown as -1 when being reprocessed. 2, they fixed an error when kill mails weren't being sent in certain rare instances. And number 3, they fixed an issue where a name change record would impact the corporation's service time displayed in a player's employment history by mistake. As a great surprise this week, the senior content creators were awarded an in-game medal. The medal itself is the same design as the Honk medal, however, instead of the purple leads on the bottom, it is now red. The medal states that it's awarded to capsuleers who have contributed to other fields in New Eden. They worked hard in other fields to help other capsuleers and contributed to a lot of development of New Eden. Thank you, devs, for my new shiny. In your Plex market report, we see a steady gain on Plex, rising to the now 1.6 million per Plex and almost touching that 1.7 million mark. With the fall of the Golden Horde, we have seen a rebranding of the Southern Coalition to the now named Content Coalition. I received one of the first drafts of its charter this week from a confidential source, and at first glance it seemed like a normal coalition with defensive pacts and calling for and receiving aid from others within that coalition. However, when peacetime inevitably rolls in, it becomes a little confusing. The charter fosters PvP among its allies through a non-evasion pack, where it states that you can freely go roam in its allies' territories and hunt its allies. That gate camp rule, sorry, screw that, ain't happening. But I digress. It goes further in to have the leaders of the Content Coalition alliances to organize large-scale PvP battles, but these must be scheduled and the responsibility of the losses falls on each of the pilots taking place in those battles. The charter also states that you may not mine intumescent belts within the territory of the Content Coalition alliances and structure fights may only be shield timers and fall under the simulation clause. Now, I reached out to one of the heads of the Content Coalition to ask exactly what this is for, and I'm told it's how they behave as a group to avoid a blue donut and keep content up during times of peace. The members of this coalition are ACR, VOID, OG, Warp, and RM. RM is the Russian branch of the Golden Horde that is now living in Ketch. The war in the south has a new target now that the Golden Horde has been dealt with. Pantheon has deployed fully into Innsmother and Wicked Creek, focusing its attention now on Void, another ACR ally. The goal is to break the allies of ACR, whether by force or negotiation. Pantheon has laid out terms to all ACR allies to pull out of the war by simply changing standings to Pantheon and Genesis to neutral, and then break off ties with ACR. If ACR allies did this, it would then allow Pantheon and Gen forces to more easily attack ACR structures, breaking their hold on Fae, and possibly shattering that alliance. As with no allies in unfavorable time zones, ACR would then be vulnerable. For some, it's a sense of pride, as they would not turn their back against their allies. However, for some, it seems it's out of fear and self-preservation. As stated by a Void FC to a Pantheon member, in fear of ACR retaliation for taking the deal. Pantheon has taken out a 1 trillion ISK bounty being paid by themselves and accepted by themselves against the Content Coalition, and has been running a contest to coincide with their deployment entitled Spring Cleaning. This contest has been running for several days now, and now at the end of day 6 they have over 500 billion in total ISK damages recorded. This contest is set up to run 9 days and will most likely be extended, and until Pantheon gets the answer they want, there is no end in sight. What is Void's answer to this occupation of their territory? I give you Operation Turtle Shell. This is a full-on defensive mode, and by this I mean denial of content. Full-on travel only when paired up with a scout. Do not engage fleets to feed easy kills either. This does not mean they have not been defending themselves, however. Pantheon has been ringing the doorbell all week and did manage to kill 2 outposts belonging to Void this week. However, all armor timers were defended on the citadels. One of these defensive fights has cost Pantheon Genesis fleet 4 nightmares before they were able to withdraw from the fight of 300 versus 200. However, credit to them, as even outnumbered, they did take the fight. It seems this week has all been about ebb and flow, give and take. On Wednesday night, a mixed fleet of OG and Void fended off another Pantheon Genesis fleet armor attack, only to chase them and fight them in 5H as the same fleet was hitting a OG shield timer close to 3 hours later. This fight was 180 versus 160 with a local count of 340. The Content Coalition fielded 45 battleships, 35 battlecruisers, 25 cruisers with mixed tackle as well, squaring off against the Pantheon Genesis fleet of 35 battleships, 75 battlecruisers, and 35 cruisers with mixed tackle. It was a fun fight that I actually had the pleasure to be a part of. However, with superior numbers, the fight was doomed from the beginning, as the OG Logi Guardian DC'd upon landing on grid and was not able to get back into the game. With no protection for their logistics, it was the beginning of the end. The fleet fought valiantly, but in the end were overcome by the Pantheon Genesis forces. Most of the defending fleet was wiped out. ISK damages for OG were in excess of 30 billion. The Void numbers are unknown. The Pantheon suffered 13 billion in losses, and the Genesis numbers are unknown. Among the losses were 4 faction battleships, a Balgorn, 2 Nightmares, and a Vindicator. I am told that the Pantheon killboard shows ISK damages of at least 120 billion. In other Pantheon news, the alliances of Retribution and Pandemonium have merged and rebranded to BLAP Ghost Fleet. Earlier this week, Warp had gotten Mamasaurus as well as leadership from ACR to try and hammer out a deal to start an end to this war. However, due to either a translation error, WeChat, the primary social media used for Chinese communications due to not being able to use Discord, Genesis's Momosaurus Rex promptly ended all talks. Sources close to Genesis state that she was dragged into the chat and didn't really want to participate as they have the upper hand in this war currently. The current popular thoughts are that ACR wants Genesis to pull out of Fae and go back to Esoteria to stabilize the area in order for peace. Genesis claims ACR has no claim to Fae, as it was won as spoils of war versus Death Phantom. Which view you support? One common fact is clear, that there is no end in sight for this war. Evo 1, a still new to OG Corp, ran a series of events this weekend called Evochella, featuring multiple roams including a all-can-you fleet, gate camps, and ratting events. Bounties paid out for Fountain and Pantheon specific kills were up to 10 billion in ISK. As for the Evo fleets, I had a correction this week issued from Weird Bob and the OG Empire, where they would like to correct the roams I talked about last week in Interceptors. They wanted to remind me that not always are the Intys flying, as they were doing a Ventures Only roam as well. 3.8 billion was destroyed using just mining ships. During that roam, they killed 7 ships and lost a total ISK of 366 million. Total ships lost in that fight were 17. Now the reason I bring this up is because Weird Bob of Evo 1 ran another of his Pantheon Interceptor roams, however this one was a little bit different. In this particular engagement, they killed 24 billion in ISK in a matter of 8 minutes. They noticed 2 Macarials as they jumped into a system and saw that they warped to a station which could be seen from the gate. The fight was one of intensity, which netted 6 kills, 2 Macarials, a Hurricane, a VNI, an Atron Interceptor, and a Caracol Trainer for good measure, totaling in 23.4 billion ISK killed as they suffered 14 losses totaling in 2.2 billion. And they say even that was due to sticky, greedy fingers collecting the loot. We move now to No Please Stop, who had several fights this week, and can always be found on their YouTube channel in full. This one that we're talking about, their Chinese corporation KOFR informed No that there were a lot of hostiles in a fight in Providence. No responded by sending a fleet into the target-rich environment. As they jumped into local, it was 350, as an outpost battle was currently being waged and it had reached 400 in local at the peak of the fight. Friendlies were around 150, mostly No and CMSN, also a TN fleet that was meant to be friendly, however they died in the fight because of a standings issue. By the end of the fight, at least 30 battleships and 70 battlecruisers lay in waste. The No fleet that had entered the fray claims a loss of only 3 ships, no numbers officially from the other participants, and the outpost was destroyed. In other news, popular content creator Captain Benzie, ahoy there, was officially quit Eve Echo's Reddit, citing not wanting to have that toxicity seep into his mind or game. He assures his fans that he will continue to create content videos as well as actively play the game. Conspiracy theories of Benzie's mainstay on just the content creator test server were shattered this week as multiple Benzie sightings were had during the Pantheon's deployment to Void Space. In this week's Corporation Alliance Spotlight, we have StarCats. Buckle in, it's a long one. StarCats is a Day 1 corporation, having been around since literally the first day and continue to remain strong to this very moment. They have been a major player in Delve since the beginning and have helped bring stability to the region when multiple factions were just settling there in the area. They are known for being a mediating force open to diplomacy and cooperation before showing military force. STCA Diplo have helped get a lot of corporations into the Alliance, or at least blue status within the area. Don't be fooled by their willingness to talk though. If you need be, they will respond with force, and they're good at that response as well. They made a name for themselves as an early in the PBI-BC war, where the old EL Alliance broke down and scattered to the wind, but they held firm in the face of overwhelming and outclassed odds. Stealth bombers and swarm tactics made it so that as soon as even one of their pilots landed in the systems, or were even spotted going up the pipelines, they were called out through intel channels. And their industrial pilots scattered while they tried to pull together flash-formed counter fleets. To this day, they still have designations for Hellcats and Feral Stalkers, two of their main PvP wings. StarCats in recent times has evolved from just a Echoes community to a more broad spectrum across multiple games and platforms. It is not uncommon to find them in games such as Space Engineers, Warzone, Elite Dangerous, or even Stardew Valley and Minecraft. They also have recently merged with another Pantheon corporation to boost their ranks and activity. Ranger has been a close ally since the first month in the game and decided it was time to become one to keep intel, activity, and coordination as high as possible. To be honest, it didn't feel like we absorbed another corp, but rather expanded communications and efficiently to another group that felt like an extension of themselves already. In their mission statement, they state, "We have a hard-line stance against racism, discrimination, cheating, stealing, and any other form of negativity impacting gameplay. A good portion of our pilots are minority status, and we have in the past removed members for their conduct against such a stance, and will continue to do so. We find more dissent within our ranks." The STCA culture is something most corps strive for. All their pilots are willing and eager to help one another at a moment's notice. Activity is maintained even in slow load times, and everyone works cohesively towards the corps player set goals. The Discord server is a community hub for the Southern Delve constellation. All blues are welcomed and encouraged to keep active on the server. Where we have seen many other groups collapse due to their internal politics and toxicity, we strive to provide the best place to hang out and play for all those that have joined us. Internally, we operate as a mediocrity where if you're doing something well, you'll be recognized for it. There are no single decisions being made. All actions we take as a corp as actions discussed within the officer cadre before implementing. Although most things are done as a group, officers usually operate independently and always have the best interests at heart for the corporation. We function well as a group and as individuals in the leadership capacity. All corp activities are transparent and presented to their pilots. We hold weekly corp meetings and at the end in a Q&A, a session for not only their own pilots, but other blues as well. We like to make things explode, and we're not afraid of sending pilots out against what others would consider bad odds and still turn it into a victory on our end. Many pilots have joined our ranks from friendly groups based on our willingness to fight, as well as our internal structure and community that we've been creating since day one. We're also known as a great group to learn the ropes with and have no problem taking on a brand new pilots to help them learn the game. More than one of our established mentors and fighters started off this way. Even as a member of Happy Bees, it's astounding the amount of freedom they're given to operate and conduct themselves. While we respond to any Alliance CTAs in the effort of providing ourselves safe space or denying our enemies' plans, we do what we want, when we want. Now, that has to be the longest spotlight I've ever been sent, and information in the description below will be provided for you to contact them if you are interested in joining. Now, I would like to start a new section up on the show called the Salt Mine. Do you have some incredible salt? Send it to me to feature each week. However, on this first show, I give you A1RF14U, who I'll be responding as Air for You, who goes on a massive tirade not just to the pilot that killed him, but also me after the kill mail was sent to me. Clearly, this pilot suffers from anger issues, possibly a cloning error from a previous potting. Now, keep in mind, all this rage and anger and bile has stemmed from a 15 million Omen trainer kill. And my god, just look at this fit. Hey kid, I heard you like missiles. Have a missile sampler platter. Now this pilot is formerly of Pantheon, Sin to be specific. However, upon showing this rage fest to a Pantheon Diplo spy master, his membership has since been revoked. Sorry, buddy. So, if you have salt out there, send it to me, and if it's worthy enough to show, I will put it up here. Also, any merc organizations out there, are you paying freelancers to collect kills for you? Send me a list of contracts for open filling, and I will feature them here each week so players can contact you and go get those scalps. In big kills this week, I have been flooded recently with all sorts of kills lately, and I know success of the channel brings more interest, but moving forward after this week, I'm going to start keeping the big kills section to ships over 4 billion in price. Catch 22 this week hits the list with a 15 billion Nightmare kill and a 15.9 billion Rattlesnake kill. Pantheon showing the faction cruiser love with his 2.8 billion Cinnabal. Bot from Silent Federation does some heavy lifting this week with multiple faction battleship kills this week, and because there are so many, I'm just going to list the highest in each category. 6 Macarial kills, the highest being a 10.5 billion one, 7 Rattlesnakes, the highest at 17.2 billion, 1 Nightmare at 18 billion, 1 Balgorn at 11.3 billion, and finally 1 Vindicator at 12.4 billion. Collect your prize, you have filled out your Battleship Bingo card. Let's give them a round of applause. And last, the MC hits the board with a 3 billion Gila and a 2.4 billion Ashmu. Now, they also had a bunch of Battleship kills this week, but they were all around between 1 to 2 billion each. And now for everyone's favorite, the solo kills of the week, and a chance at a free Omega combo. Alright, we have McCain with a 1.426 billion Dramiel kill. We have Venomune with a 1.445 billion Succubus kill. Dark Mickey comes in with a 1.5 billion Dramiel kill. Canderous comes in with a 1.6 billion Succubus kill. Zilver comes in with a 2.6 billion Daemonxel kill. I Feel You has a 5.5 billion Terra with an Industry Center drop. And no stranger to the channel, the winner of this week's Omega Combo and Honk's Employee of the Month, Badran, with a 16 billion Rattlesnake kill. Badran, by now you know what to do. And that's our show. But if you need more news in your life, please go check out Rambo's Echoes of New Eden podcast with popular interviews with FCs and influential people of New Eden. So for me in this channel, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we are always one vision, one purpose, one front.